Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics and the Batavia Daily News. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, alongside my co-host, Ajay Cybulski. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, and obviously, in this case, from Rochester at St. John Fisher University and Bill's training camp, thanks to our friends at Forefathers.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, another jam-packed day of Bill's training camp here at St. John Fisher University in Rochester. A lot to discuss, but first and foremost, you'll be returning to the scene after a day off on Wednesday. You'll be here on Thursday joining me at training camp. I might have to check out a little bit early. Want to make sure we have all our bases covered. From the outside looking in, since your last appearance, what have you seen? What have you heard? What are you paying most attention to from Bill's training camp before we get to the injury sustained by Colt Bishop today during practice?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Actually, it was the kind of the spiraling injuries at the safety position and kind of what that goes, how that's going. And I think that's obviously a big kind of development here as we move forward throughout the rest of training camp. But yeah, I think just this pass rush, I think the defensive line, from everything that I've read, I think, Greg Rousseau stepping up yesterday, Miller or Epinesa making some impact plays. Obviously, Von Miller making an impact today, his first day in pads coming off of veteran rest day on Monday. I'm just excited to see with this defensive line what they can do. Daquan Jones, obviously a veteran rest day today. Ed Oliver next to him, so he's been a guy. When I went on Friday of last week, Oliver was a big disruptor and made some nice plays. So the defensive line for me, the biggest concern on this Bills team, in my opinion, outside of probably the safety position now, showing some signs of continuity, showing some signs of winning on the edge, beating Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins, two guys that are coming off really good seasons, and I think that's a really good step. So just from Friday to going into Thursday when I am at St. John Fisher next, I think I'm just going to really look at that offensive line, defensive line battle and see really who can come out on top. Javon Solomon's won a couple of reps. So there's a lot of guys along this defensive line that I'm just impressed with so far from what I've seen, from what I've read, from what I've listened to. And I'm really looking forward to that unit continuing to grow and moving forward what they can accomplish in 2024.
Yeah, Von Miller's most productive day, without a doubt, at Bill's training camp was overshadowed a bit by a few injuries by contributing members of Buffalo's roster, beginning with safety Colt Bishop. And the injuries starting to pile up at the safety position. Mike Edwards exited practice a couple of days ago. He's been out and considered week to week. Now Bishop going out. The Bills did sign a free agent, a 15-year veteran in Kareem Jackson, somebody who's kind of known to be a headhunter in his past and maybe shades of a dirty player. More on him a bit later. But yeah, injury starting to spiral in that safety room. It was already a group in transition. Taylor Rapp is seemingly locked down a starting role, but opposite him, still up in the air. We've seen that rotation between Hamlin, Edwards, and Bishop. Now that rotation seemingly down to Hamlin, and maybe Jackson fits in there with Edwards and Bishop on the mend. It appeared to be an arm injury for Bishop. News 4's Josh Reed saw him after practice with his left arm wrapped up, so something to monitor going into Thursday's practice. We won't hear anything on that tomorrow, obviously, with the day off, but that'll be a main topic of discussion going into Thursday's practice. If this rookie can return to the practice field and really keep this safety room afloat going into the return of blue and red on Friday.
Yeah, and this is not a good sign. Like, if there was any group of, kind of players that are getting hurt, I think the safety is one of the bottom positions you'd want that to happen to, just because of the fact they're starting over there. And these reps in training camp are so important and pivotal for a Cole Bishop, a rookie coming from Utah, who's never played at the NFL level, to get his feet underneath him, put the pads on, play defense in Bobby Babbitt's and Sean McDermott's system and really get it going and kind of get some chemistry with these linebackers that they're working with. So I think the injury to Cole Bishop, very unfortunate. Hopefully we'll see, again, like you mentioned, on Thursday when we get an update from the coach regarding Bishop and what he, where he's at in his recovery, or if there's even an update at all. And then Mike Edwards, another one that I know you posted him kind of trotting around. I would say a noticeable limp on that leg, the hamstring injury that he suffered.
Not as noticeable as yesterday, so maybe starting to progress from that. He had some electronic stimulation on that yesterday. Didn't appear to have that today. He also did a little bit of work with trainers today, so a little bit of a good sign from Edwards, as that limp wasn't as noticeable as it was the day before.
Yeah, so I want to see what the safety position can be now with Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp. If those are the two guys, and you mentioned Kareem Jackson, a guy that was suspended twice in 2023 for hits. So he definitely has a past history of being a little bit dirty and, like you mentioned, head hunting. So I'm looking to see what the safety position can be without these guys, but it's really not a good thing for a group that's so new. You lose a Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, who have been in the system and have basically ran the system for the past 6-7 years. Going into a year where you have so much uncertainty at that position, and it's so important for what the Bills do defensively, you lose two guys in Cole Bishop and Mike Edwards that you spent maybe not crazy money on Edwards, but you spent a lot of draft capital on Bishop to come on in and be an impact player in this as soon as this season. So it's definitely a very, I would say, a little bit worried. It's a not a great sign that this is happening right now.
Yeah, and our guy Thigh Doctor asking us where Cole Bishop's arm was wrapped. It was, in fact, like I said, the left arm. And I didn't see the wrap. It was Josh Reed who reported that he had his arm wrapped up after practice. Vic Carucci actually was the first one to spot Bishop exiting the practice field. His arm dangling a bit on that left side. So not much clarity there, but something we'll continue to monitor. And hopefully Bishop can return sooner rather than later. Just a quick note on Kareem Jackson. He is a 15-year NFL veteran. He is going to wear Tre'Davious White's former number 27. And like I said, he's been suspended in the past for hits up high on receivers and really something that's been a common theme lately in his career. So hopefully he's put those concerns behind him. And if the Bills need him to contribute, he's ready to do so.
Can I chime in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So with the Jackson signing, do you have any concern about Micah Hyde? And maybe not concern, but do you think that lessens the chances that Micah Hyde is willing to return this season? They're facing, again, 2 injuries at the safety position right now. Early in training camp, they go and get Jackson and don't go after Hyde, a guy that's still on the fence with where he's at in his NFL career, is yet to make a decision. Do you think that kind of lessens the chances that he's a Buffalo Bill this year with all the injury concerns already at the safety spot?
I don't, because I always felt if the Bills were going to sign Micah Hyde, it was going to come after training camp, at least after the team leaves St. John Fisher University. I'm sure a player that's already contemplating retirement doesn't want to make the trip to Rochester and spend the long, hot days out here. The way I look at it, if you bring Micah Hyde back, it's a situation like they're experiencing now when a few players go down during training camp, and if they're not able to return after the team leaves St. John Fisher University, then maybe the wheels start turning toward an addition of Micah Hyde, or perhaps a free agent signing, Justin Simmons, who a lot of people have been talking about since Mike Edwards' injury, and now Cole Bishop going down. The talk of Justin Simmons' season is certainly going to increase, and that's a free agent that a lot of Bills fans have had their eye on throughout the offseason, not just with the recent injuries, but knowing that Poyer and Hyde were departing this offseason. A lot of Bills fans had Justin Simmons on the tongue, and maybe the Bills use some of that money that they saved with the post-June 1st release of Tre'Davious White that they still really haven't spent much of. Maybe they use that on a free agent signing. Let's see, some more injuries. We talked about Mike Edwards, but like I said, a positive update on him as he was off to the side working with trainers alongside Travis Clayton, who also missed today's practice, the international pathway player. 3 players returned from veteran rest days that they experienced on Monday. Von Miller among them, Matt Milano and Taron Johnson also experiencing their first padded practice of training camp, while Chase Claypool remained out with that toe injury. He's day-to-day. And then 2 veteran rest days, Daquan Jones and Nicholas Moreau, while offensive lineman Mike Edwards returned to action in limited fashion wearing a red non-contact jersey as he works through concussion protocol. But enough about the injuries, AJ. Let's get to what was going to be the topic of this podcast before Bishop exited practice. Von Miller, looking like the old Von Miller today during practice. He really had his best day of training camp thus far. A sack working against Spencer Brown, who's been beaten quite often between Miller and Rousseau really getting the better of him the other day. But Miller showing great bend, burst, athleticism, and speed off the edge, really starting to reclaim some of that old form. And that's a great sign for Bills fans, knowing how much they need him this year. Losing leading sacker Leonard Floyd to free agency, not knowing what you're going to get from Greg Rousseau, who has yet to take that next jump, not knowing what you're going to get from AJ Epineza in an increased role. You need that veteran Von Miller to show back up and reclaim some of his vaunted status. And today was a massive first step in doing so, as not only the sack with Brown, he had a number of solid pressures throughout the day.
Yeah, Von Miller is, and I went into the season, and maybe he's not the X factor for this defense, but he is the guy that I think, not only with his Super Bowl history and what he's done as a player, but just the overall impact he's had on NFL rosters, regardless if they've made it to a Super Bowl or not. He's just been a heavy sack guy. And you look at his stats, it's kind of crazy because he's not been that dominant since 2019. His last double-digit sack season actually came in 2018 with the Denver Broncos. Obviously, when he was with the Broncos in 2021, got traded to the Rams, he obviously had an uptick in production, but still only finished with 9.5 sacks that year during the regular season. And then obviously had a great playoffs run with the Rams and really secured the victory for them and was the closer. So I think for this Bills defense to see Von, second day of pads, coming out, using his bend, his speed, getting to the quarterback a couple of times, beating Spencer Brown, who you mentioned is kind of struggling a little bit. Again, I think we're hearing a lot of him getting beat. And again, he's going against great pass rushers, but still, I think something to note. I just think Von Miller's very important to what this defense wants to do. Will he be an every down guy, or will he be a guy that comes in on third and long situations, obvious passing downs, and could be that closer? Because I think that's what the most important part is. So if you can continue to put these reps together, stack these days, the growing concern and the worriness for the defensive line, in my eyes, becomes a little lessened. And I think with Von Miller being at that 30 to 50% snap share, where he's not being overly utilized, and Epinesa and Rousseau can kind of lead that charge along with whoever wins that DN4 battle. I think Von is in a really good spot to maybe hit some high expectations this year, maybe hit some of those incentives. And again, he needs to be that closer down the stretch, and hopefully his health can remain so he can be that.
Yeah, and that was definitely something that played into his big day. The Bills working a lot of third and long situations offensively. And you mentioned how Miller is going to be utilized this year, and I think that is how you're going to see him most heavily utilized, in those long, obvious passing down situations. And you mentioned that he hasn't popped in recent years, but if you look back at that year before he got injured with the Bills, 8 sacks in 11 games, he was well on his way to a double-digit sack year, and maybe 15-plus sacks that season, the way that he was working before that injury. So if he can return to form there, like I said, that would be a boon for the Bills, who have also had solid performances from another number of other pass rushers throughout training camp. Obviously, the most notable, Greg Rousseau, who is really looking like he's ready for a breakout season. But quietly, Kingsley Jonathan making a consistent impact. He had another would-be sack today. Also, edge rusher Javon Solomon making his presence felt as well. Dorian Williams with a would-be sack. And then going back to Solomon, he did kind of spark the longest scuffle of training camp thus far during today's practice. Got into the pocket. I think it was him and Jonathan, kind of a combined rush on Shane Buechele. And Javon Solomon got his hand on Buechele's arm as he was throwing forward. And obviously in training camp, you're not supposed to contact the quarterback, particularly on the arm. That's a dangerous situation. Quarterback's arm could get hurt as he's looking to throw there. And Spencer Brown took exception to the contact on the quarterback, gave Solomon nice, swift two-handed shove knocked the rookie back a little bit. It was the most extended scuffle we've seen thus far, but teammates came in and quelled the disruption after a short time. There hasn't been a big brawl or anything during training camp, and heat was really sweltering today, and that probably led to some tempers flaring there. Another injury note that I think I failed to note off the top, Alec Anderson went to the hospital with heat-related illness symptoms, but he appears to be okay, as Brandon Bean, the medical staff, and Sean McDermott have since spoken with him, and he's expected to be released from the hospital later on today. So the edge rushing unit really coming along nicely, not knowing what to expect from this group this year, and something that the Bills have been trying to solve the past number of years. But I like what I've seen from this crew thus far once they put the pads on.
Yeah, Dwayne Carter, even on the interior. Sorry, looking that over real quick. Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones. I think they've all had their moments and throughout training camp during the offseason program. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this group again. There's still some concern for me with the group because I still don't think they have a guy that's proven it in this league to be a takeover type of guy that can be a game wrecker. Besides Von Miller, I mean, he's been a game wrecker before, but I'm talking about the 35-year-old coming off two ACL injury, Von Miller. That's where the concern comes from there. So there is some hope for me. I think Rousseau, I know we talked a lot about him yesterday. I thought, from what you said, he had a really good day and was disruptive and getting his hands on the ball, getting their hands up. So this defensive line needs to take a step. It starts in the trenches. Sean McDermott's always said that. Like you mentioned, they've tried to address that stuff, and it's kind of been a struggle at times to really try and find that guy that can break the game open on the defensive line. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this group can do and can continue to do throughout training camp.
Another question from Thigh Doctor. Where has Lale Collins been lining up? He's been lining up at both guard and tackle. He's really been exposed at tackle. I think he's done a little bit better of a job at guard. Not really impressed what I've seen thus far from Lale Collins. Really seems to be struggling with pass rushers, particularly off the edge. But moving elsewhere on the defensive side of the ball, along with a pass rush, Tuesday was a strong day for the Bills secondary. During team drills, Rasul Douglas nearly came away with a pick six, jumped a route, as we've seen him do plenty of times before. Failed to hang on to the ball, and it fell incomplete, but a nice play nonetheless. Cole Bishop, before he exited, he had a near interception during 11-on-11 work, and also Taylor Rapp came up for a nice pass breakup during 11-on-11. One-on-ones, a drill that typically favors the offense. I thought it went to the defense today. Really some good back and forth, but if you look at it through that lens, I think the defense really stole the show, particularly Jamarcus Ingram won all 4 of his reps, 2 against Justin Shorter, 1 against Xavier Johnson, and another against Andy Isabella. So Ingram really trying to work toward that depth position in that cornerback room behind Kyer Elam, who had an up-and-down day today. More on that later. But Ingram, a solid day. Christian Benford also recorded a pass breakup during one-on-one drills, while defensive back Cam Lewis came away with an interception of Josh Allen during one-on-ones. He was trying to find Keon Coleman in the end zone. And earlier during one-on-ones, Allen was able to find Coleman twice, once near the front pylon. Coleman really showing some late hands to get the hands up and haul in the pass as he was being guarded tightly by Kyer Elam, diving to the ground and securing the catch. The other one, he caught over Elam in the back right corner of the end zone near the back pylon. Both really nice catches from Keon Coleman, showing that contested catchability day after day. And I know there was some maybe over-the-top tweets sent out by some of these aggregate accounts yesterday calling Keon Coleman the wide receiver 1 and really embellishing the performance that he's put on throughout training camp. But I'll tell you what, he looks every bit of somebody that could contend for number 1 wide receiver share, because just day after day, like I said, the contested catchability and the reliability that he's showing to Josh Allen, that connection just continues to build. And it was a rough day for Kyer Elam, along with the 2 touchdowns he was beaten on. He also got flagged twice, once during one-on-ones for illegal contact, going up against Keon Coleman, and another time during team drills, he was flagged for pass interference on a deep throw from Allen to Coleman down the field. So Elam's gotten his hands on a number of balls throughout training camp with interceptions, but today a little bit grabby, and he got flagged a couple of times as a result.
Yeah, starting with Ingram, Deion Dawkins spoke at the presser post-practice. I gave it a listen, and he mentioned that he was asked who his favorite young player is on the team. And Dawkins like, I like everybody, but then came to the final answer of Jamarcus Ingram, said he's fast, lengthy, really works hard, a third-year pro, undrafted free agent, really has worked his tail off today. So good to see him, win those one-on-one reps. Cam Lewis, who I saw on Friday, with some impressive one-on-one battles, again wins today against in a one-on-one against Keon Coleman, correct?
Yes.
So another good sign for Cam Lewis, another guy who I think is
very. Let me check. Let me check who Lewis's interception was. Keep going.
And then who is the last guy that you mentioned? Oh, Kyer. Yeah. So with Kyer, and we mentioned this a lot with just the consistency.
Yes, Cam Lewis interception against Coleman. Yes.
Okay. So again, I think Cam Lewis has continued to show well in his one-on-one battles, and I think he's just had a great camp overall. He was one of the guys that I noticed when I was there on Friday, a guy that really stood out to me. But and then finally with Kyer, he's just a guy that the inconsistencies keep showing up. And you look at him and he gets the hands on the ball, right? He makes the splash plays, but then he gets flagged twice in a practice and he's getting beat multiple times in practice. So that consistency there for me is just yet to be seen. There hasn't really been like 3 or 4 days where we're sitting here talking about the good parts of Elam and what he's done and how he's been a lockdown guy. It's been this day he's really good. The next day, he's been, on and off and making penalties and, being too grabby and whatever the case may be. I'm sure he was, the first couple of days even without the pads, there were some reports that he was a little too grabby. So I just think his consistency.
And that's been a problem of his going back to his rookie year when they threw the boxing gloves on him.
Right. So the consistency's always been the problem with him. And we've yet to see it. So although he's made those splash plays, and I think that's a good sign, I still think there's a lot of questions regarding Kyer Elam and what he can be for this team in 2024. And then finally, this is the last finally I'll say, Keon Coleman.
How many finalies is this? Was this 3 finalies? That might be
second.
Oh, okay. I was going to say 3 might be your new record.
Keon Coleman, I'm expecting, and I talked about it last night on Trainwreck with Zach Sheldon and Maniac. Go check them out. We talked about just what do we expect from Coleman, and I think what the Bills will kind of ask from him and where the Vegas lines line up is he's going to be a 40-50 catch guy, around 600-700 yards and 5 to 8 touchdowns. That's kind of where I'm at with him. I think his ability to win, and I think that's a good thing for the Bills offense. I don't think they need him to be a wide receiver 1 this year. They do not need that. I think they have enough with Shakir Samuel, Dalton Kincaid, where they don't need Coleman to be the featured guy. Now, if he can become that, that's great. And again, he's made a lot of highlight plays and a lot of great plays at that. His vertical ability and his late hands and his catching ability, body control, sideline awareness, all that stuff is flashed every single day. So there's very positive signs that he can be maybe more than what Vegas and a lot of people around the league think he is. He's not, some big fantasy guy that all the fantasy people want, Keon Coleman. He's not like a big guy in terms of that. So you just look at what he's going to be. I have not crazy high expectations, but I have high expectations for a guy, a 33rd overall pick. I want him to surpass that 600-yard mark. I want to see him get the 50 catch mark. I'd like to see him get past 5 touchdowns. And if he does that, I think the Bills offense with all they have there is in a really good shape to be a top 10 unit again in 2024. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do progressively throughout the rest of camp.
Before we keep going, a quick word from our sponsor, Forefathers Organics. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. All right, AJ, we'll keep it rolling. A few more items to touch on. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling made an appearance at training camp finally today. I think it was the first time I wrote his name in my notebook, as we discussed previously. His most memorable reception during one-on-ones came when he beat Christian Benford. It was a really nice move at the line of scrimmage, left Christian Benford in the dust. It is a drill, like I said, that favors the offense, but it was nice to see him show that agility and route running ability. And then later during team drills, Valdez-Scantling connected with Allen on a well-thrown ball about 20 yards over the middle, held onto it, made a nice catch. Tyrell Shavers has been coming on strong for not only that sixth wide receiver spot, but perhaps that fourth wide receiver spot. He's been coming on so strong during training camp. With him coming on so strong, Valdez-Scantling needing a day like he had today, and good to see the veteran come out here and start to develop a rapport with Josh Allen.
Yeah, everything I've heard regarding Terrell Shavers, from Joe Brady to players on the offense, Dawkins talked about him today and just what he's been and how he's really shown a lot of promise and what he's given this Bills offense so far in Joe Brady's system. I'm really excited to see what Shavers can do on Friday in the red and blue and red scrimmage. I forget exactly which way we're going here, but on the scrimmage on Friday, and then in the upcoming preseason games, and then with MVS, I think it's good to finally hear. I saw, I have your post notifications on, and I finally read MVS makes a play. So that was definitely good to hear. I know he's been working a lot with the 2s and 3s. It feels like he's kind of where's his spot. He doesn't really offer much special tems versatility. So where is he going to really find a role? He's going to need to showcase what he can do, and that's straight line speed, deep post routes, just running straight down the field, one line. That's really what he can do. So if he's able to do that, then maybe that can give him a chance and a push for the roster spot. But I'm really intrigued with this, this bottom of the wide receiver depth chart, where it's going to stand, where it's going to go, because there's so much with what's Chase Claypool going to be coming off the injury, and what can Terrell Shavers do? Is KJ Hamler, his punt return and kick return ability, something the Bills value enough to keep? So there's a big kind of bunch of guys after, I'd say, who, again, Mac Hollins, who I've read from you and many others how great he's been throughout camp, and you look at obviously Shakir, Samuel, and Coleman, kind of the top 4 in my opinion right now. After that, it's kind of a fire shoot. So you really don't know what to expect, and you want to see one of these guys break free. And right now it feels like Shavers, but I still think with Claypool's prior experience in the league, he still has a shot. With Hamler's punt return experience, he still has a shot. And with Terrell Shavers, what he's done and put on tape day in, day out here at St. John Fisher, he definitely has a shot to make this 53-man roster.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to the preseason. I think these preseason games are going to be as important as ever for the Bills under Sean McDermott, at least over the past couple of years, where you saw a lot of veterans getting rest. You might still see that with some guys, but a lot of players near the bottom of the roster looking to make their way into contributing roles. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Chase Claypool, Tyrell Shavers, Justin Shorter among them. I think the bottom half, also KJ Hamler, who we haven't mentioned a lot, I think all those players are going to have to vie for that spot or a couple of spots during the preseason. And everybody's favorite time of the pod, AJ, some special teams updates. We did see some punting today. My first time really paying attention to the punting. I think it may have been the second day we've seen some punting from Jack Browning and Sam Martin. Martin, with a better sequence, really didn't have a bad punt. Browning didn't do too bad, but his first punt seemed to be a little bit of a shankopotamus. He did rebound, had a couple of low kicks, but for the most part did well. And then Tyler Bass was out there with Browning holding his kicks. He went 5 of 6 on field goals after a perfect day the other day with Sam Martin. Bass's lone miss today was from 52 yards, his longest make from 48. So Bass really putting on a good show during training camp. He's been pretty consistent with a couple of different holders working in, and that's obviously a positive sign. But another battle that I think is going to come down to the preseason as we see Sam Martin and Jack Browning continue to fight things out here.
Yeah, I really like, what I've heard from Sam Martin. Seems to be another consistent day, like you said. So special teams, always interesting. Jack Browning versus Sam Martin. So we'll see what really happens. And then with Bass, 11 of 12 the last 2 times he's kicked, because of perfect 6 for 6 on Friday when I was there. So I think that's a good sign. Missed from 52. You want those to be made, but 52 yards is longer. But for an NFL kicker, that should be, 70%, 80% make rate. So you really want to see what Bass can do from beyond 50. The rest of training camp, but all in all, just special teams are special teams, and we'll kind of see where it goes.
That's all I have from today, AJ. Really emptied the notebook. Looking forward to a day off tomorrow. It's been so hot here at St. John Fisher the last 2 days. Today, I really started to feel the heat for the first time. You know me, during the summertime when the AC's on in the office, I got my little space heater on sometimes. I get so cold, but I couldn't stand the heat these last 2 days.
Yeah, the heat was it was ridiculous. I mean, when I played basketball on Sunday, it was a hot day too, and there's no AC in that place. So they have like the garage. It's like a kind of a garage building. So they have like the doors open up on each side, and it doesn't really do anything. They got like 4 fans going, so once in a while you can kind of sit in front of a fan and stand there and maybe get some nice cold air. But for the most part, you're dying in the places. Whenever you're in the sun or you're in a place with no AC in Buffalo in late July, especially the last couple summers, I feel like they've been crazy hot. It's not fun.
Yeah, obviously not as bad for me as the players out there in full uniform. Our best wishes for Alec Anderson. Hopefully everything okay with him and he can return to the practice field sooner rather than later. But another person that I feel absolutely horrible for during these hot days, Billy Buffalo. He's out there in this sweltering heat in that 100-pound fur suit. I don't know what they got underneath there. I don't know if he's got some air conditioning suit or something. I don't know if there is anything like that. I know like there's heated jackets and stuff. I don't know if they have it on the other side with air conditioning jackets or something, but Billy Buffalo has got to be dying after days of practice such as the one we had today.
Yeah, what a legend. Billy Buffalo. Shout out to Billy Buffalo. What a guy.
What great endurance he's shown throughout camp too. Just always lively, a great arm, throwing the T-shirts into the crowd. Billy Buffalo, my MVP of camp thus far.
Is he a lock?
Yeah. Billy Buffalo, roster lock, much like Mac Hollins and others. Billy Buffalo, roster lock. But AJ, why don't you close with this? You touched on it to begin. Why don't you go a different direction? I think you talked about the pass rushing unit, but what are you most looking forward to when you get back out here on Thursday? And then obviously the return of blue and red when you'll be in the crowd on Friday. A good vantage point from a little bit further away, get to see that kind of all 22 angle during that scrimmage environment.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the bottom of the wide receiver depth chart, like we mentioned. Can someone in the next 2 days here really pull away as we enter the final week of training camp going into next week? Who can really pull away in that spot? And you feel like maybe we have an idea of where that's going to go. Obviously, I want to see Matt Milano in pads. He's been a guy that I haven't seen since week 5 in London of last season. So how's he look? How's his explosiveness looking, and what can he be? So another guy that's not been on the field for a long time. So that's another thing. And then I just want to see Josh Allen and see how he is during the blue and red scrimmage and what he can really showcase. I know it's kind of it's probably like an hour and a half, 2 hour, scrimmage, and they do some stuff. It's not, too much, but it's more of, I would say, a fan experience. They do more than like training camp, but it's not too in depth or too highly, physical and stuff like that. So I'm just looking forward to Josh Allen, what he can be. Matt Milano in pads, finally seeing him out there at full speed. Physicality, how's his physicality look? And then the wide receiver, bottom of the depth chart, like we mentioned earlier, who's gonna make a name for themselves in the next couple of days here.
All right, that's going to do it. Another episode of Right Here, Right Now. Before we get out of here, another word from our sponsor, Forefathers Organics.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit ForefathersOrganics.com for more information.
All right, that's it for us right here, right now. Live Buffalo football talk. Back probably on Thursday. Not sure if we're going to do it on Wednesday. We might take the full day off. You'll have to wait and see. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.